there, it's Anonymous Tea, where we spill the tea anonymously. Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you guys are all having an amazing day today, sending good vibes, sending positivity, sending blessings, and good energy to each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today we are breaking down a portion of Carlos King's interview with Funky Dineva that has dropped, in which Funky Dineva spills the tea on what went wrong with Foxhole, with TGIF. And now here's the thing, you guys, though, before we get into it, it's kind of funny to listen to this because on one end, you know, Carlos and Funky Dineva are good friends, right? So Carlos already has the tea, right? And Carlos is already friends with everybody. He already had Claudia Jordan on. He's probably going to have Al Reynolds at some point on, I'm sure, to give his side of things and all of that. And so we already have kind of a gist of what has happened, but now is time for his friend Funky Dineva to give the exclusive. However, there have been some things that he kind of said the opposite of on his platform, which we'll get to in a moment. But nonetheless, overall, essentially what Funky Dineva said, which we kind of knew already, was in regards to the pay issues. Basically, he was saying that he got paid $12.50 an episode. And essentially, the negotiations fell through because they basically wanted to pay him $1,000 an episode. And they didn't want to give any healthcare benefits to any of the co-hosts of the show. And so Funky Dineva felt like, okay, well, this isn't it, right? And so that's why they negotiated the 6 months extension in hopes that they were going to be able to, you know, see his worth, see his value, and give him a pay increase, or at least give him what he was making prior, you know, before. And they threw him the same offer of $1,000 an episode, and essentially said that, you know, this $250 is what it came down to, and that would have been basically, you know, you're basically giving up, you know, $60,000 a year, essentially, right? For me to have the same money I was making and also to have healthcare, right? And he also said as well that there was so much drama and infighting going on. And he made it a point to say that it wasn't just, you know, the issues allegedly between Claudia and Al Reynolds, but there was issues with production, there was HR issues, there was messy emails, there was messy communication. Every single day, there was just something unprofessional. There was just something that was always going awry. There was something that was always going wrong, and all of these things. And he even made it a point to say, even with the issues, even though it sounds like it's done with Claudia and Al Reynolds, Funky Dineva made it a point to say that in the event that they ever wanted to do this again, that he would be open to it, but they would have to, you know, basically wipe out like the production and all these other people because it just got too messy and too much interference. And I'm just trying to figure out if and when that would ever happen again. But he made it a point to say, because of all of the chaos that was taking place with the Breakfast Club and Wendy Williams not being, you know, around anymore in daytime television to do like the messy celebrity news and gossip and reality TV, that there was a hole, that there needed to be a void that was filled. And I think you also had Dish Nation. You have other shows, but you didn't have anything that was like really making the blogs, that was really controversial like that, until really we had, you know, TGIF. And then he did a comparison as well, you know, to the Cocktails with Queen show that had Lisa Ray, Vivica Fox, and Selena Johnson, and of course Claudia Jordan, and basically was explaining the reason that went kaput. And basically, you know, Claudia had alluded to this prior to, that basically the show was too expensive to produce because you essentially have all of these women who have made it in the entertainment industry and have made all kinds of money that are going to demand a certain salary now to be on this Zoom show, right? But they didn't, you know, the ends didn't justify the means, and the viewership wasn't there. And so Funky Dineva said, yes, these people, you know, they've made it in Hollywood, they've made it in the entertainment business. However, collectively for this show, they're not bigger than me. They're not bigger than TGIF. They're not getting the views that TGIF was getting, right? And so then he says as well that essentially T.S. Madison was supposed to get Funky Dineva slot for the show, get the co-hosting gig. However, the money was not right, and basically it wasn't enough for T.S. Madison to give up, what they had currently happening, right? So nonetheless, that fell through, and it ends up going to Armon Wiggins. And so then Funky Dineva says that he did all of this mentoring to Armon, tried to root for him, tried to really, push for all of these things for him to happen, and tried to tell him, the professional things to do, some of the behind-the-scenes tea, who to rock with, who not to rock with, all these things, all of these juicy details, right? And he says Armon went into the show and allegedly just did the complete opposite, right? Just did the complete opposite, did not listen. And then he tried to bring his age into it and say that he was young. But I thought Armon was in his mid-30s. So what do you mean? He's not an 18-year-old just getting out of high school with, stars in his eyes and no idea yet how to officially become an adult and is coming of age. No. No, he's been out here. And so then Funky Dineva and, Carlos King were, hyping up Armon and saying that they feel that he's like the next big YouTuber and all of these things, and wanted to speak to how important he is to the community. But Funky Dineva just reiterated that there was just so much, that just went wrong, And Funky Dineva, he was thinking that he wasn't expecting the show to basically flop like this and basically end. He was hoping he could be like Portia and basically come back, after a season, after a year off, and come back to the throne, right? And nonetheless, the show just went up in smoke. And so he said that the roast that Armon Wiggins did is not the reason that the show got canceled, but that it was basically a contributing factor, right? And so it is interesting, though, the roast discussion, because Funky Dineva, you to your credit, you say you're direct, right? But you've gone in plenty of times on Claudia Jordan as well. You've said some messy things about Claudia Jordan on and off TGI Friday in terms of the alleged rumors about her and all of these things. You went off and all of that, but it never came to any of this, right? But it's just funny how certain people can get away with certain things, but now all of a sudden we're going to condemn, somebody else, right? So nonetheless, Funky Dineva feels that Armon essentially had a battery put in his back, basically agrees that there's no way over this short period of time that Armon would have been able to have all of this information on Al Reynolds and any alleged beef or behind the scenes tea and all of this. And basically somebody wanted that information out there to hurt them, right? And so, nonetheless, he also spilled about, which Claudia kind of alluded to, about, basically her getting the screenshot of Al Reynolds, in some messy group chat with Nene Leakes and others, basically, throwing shade at Claudia Jordan, and that also kind of led to, some other things. But then as well, Funky Dineva revealed that, that there's been messy stuff that was done to him. And also revealed that there was just too much chatter behind the scenes. He didn't understand, we only have to film, this hour show, and we tape the Friday show on Thursdays. So without, with the exception of the pre-show meetings and these hour Zoom, sessions, we don't have to fool with each other outside of this, right? We don't have to deal with each other outside of this hour Zoom show and getting $250,000 a year, which I do not understand for the life of me. The easiest money ever. Here's the thing. I don't need to be friends with my coworkers, you guys. I don't need to be BFFs with the people that I work with. As far as I'm concerned, I'm here, we can get the work done, get the check, and go. And when it's time to leave, it's time to leave. And Funky Dineva made it a point to say, he doesn't like clocking in and out, and he hasn't clocked in and out of a job in years, right? So nonetheless, he's like, why am I going to put up with all of this? And I can, go back to YouTube completely full time and make my dough, which he claims that, you know, when he's not trying hard, can make an upwards of $30,000 a month, and then when he is trying, can make upwards of, you know, $50,000 to $60,000 a month, and is basically trying to claim that he makes around between $400,000 to $600,000 a year on YouTube alone, you guys. So I found that to be interesting as well. Then Carlos wanted to get the tea on Funky Dineva's relationship with Al Reynolds, because of course we saw the infamous, it made all of the blogs where Al Reynolds is calling in while Funky Dineva is on live, and Funky Dineva keeps telling him, hey, I'm on live, I'll call you back. And, Carlos wants to speak to the rumors about Al Reynolds being messy behind the scenes, Al Reynolds trying to get everybody fired, and all of these things, and that he is a diva and all of this. Now, I felt Funky Dineva and he went into protective mode, which is fine, that's his friend. But I felt he wasn't keeping it all the way a buck. The one little nugget he did give, that he did throw the bone about, was that he said that Al Reynolds was very insecure, and that essentially he knew that he was the weakest link, he felt like he was the weakest link out of the co-host for the show, so he was going and be above and beyond to be extra prepared and have all of these notes and have all of these things, and he was always worried about his job and worried about the future of him on the show, because you guys know, for the entirety of the show being on, who gets dragged the most, right? Now, Funky would get dragged if there was a controversy, right? If there was something controversial, he said, like with, the Chloe Bailey comments and all those things, right? But for the most part, people dragged Al Reynolds, right? Because sometimes he came in with the professional, lawyer talk approach, but then other times he was just having his cape on for like random reasons that had nothing to do with the story at hand, right? And so people felt a certain type of way, basically saying, hey, you're not coming across as genuine, or you don't have all the facts on this particular story, or you're coming at this angle because you're friends with so-and-so. So people felt a certain way that he wasn't being completely himself. And so Funky Dineva is trying to say, Al Reynolds, he's a good time, they go out drinking and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, he's not really going to go in. Right? He's not going to go in, because Claudia already exposed that they had this falling out, and that she tried reaching out to him on this hiatus to try to save the show, and Al Reynolds just wanted no parts and was fine with the show basically being done. So wouldn't that imply that perhaps there is some truth to any alleged behind the scenes stuff going on, complaining to production, complaining to whomever to try to get the show off the air because you're not happy with the direction of the show? And can we keep it a buck, Funky Dineva, that when you left TGIF, that Al Reynolds was being a little bit messy to some of these co-hosts, in particular Armon Wiggins wanted to sun him, wanted to do his own version of hazing before Armon could fully come into the fold, and then once people caught on and called it out, then all of a sudden the tune changed on the show. Like we got to keep it a buck for what it is, regardless of who you like or dislike. There was some messiness, right? Because if there was nothing messy to go on or to discuss, the show would be on the air, wouldn't it? Like factually, right? If it wasn't as messy as you're claiming, if Al Reynolds was like this upstanding citizen that you're claiming that he's perfection, why is the show off the air, right? Because that would indicate that it's more than Armon Wiggins that has the show canceled, which would indicate that there were other factors, whether you want to blame it to production or blame it on, the rest of the co-hosts or whatever, that there was all types of issues to where the show just couldn't even continue. And they couldn't justify the means. They didn't even want to renew the contract. They didn't even want to move forward. But my thing is, if you're going to do an abrupt hiatus, right, and there's still a smidge chance that the show can come back on the air, all of the messiness on social media in between was for what, right? Al having his friend go on platforms. Claudia Jordan was in the chat of, other shows on Foxhole, exposing, her side of things and basically saying this is all Al Reynolds' fault. And Al Reynolds is doing the mute challenge, but has a mouthpiece that is speaking to certain bloggers and all of this. And then Armon comes out and gives his piece. And then him and Claudia Jordan are hanging out in Las Vegas. And it's just all of this mess. And then ultimately, literally, was it like a day or two after the interview dropped with Claudia Jordan and Carlos King, and officially the show's announced that it's done for good? No. That is a disaster. That is an epic fail as far as I'm concerned, you guys. So nonetheless, the show, definitely it was not because of one person that it ended. Ultimately, whether it was new people coming into the show, whether it was too much messiness across the board, top to bottom, to where it wasn't worth it to justify the means. I just don't understand, though, for the life of me, to fumble $250K like this and to not just grin and bear whatever the situation is. And if you don't like these people, when it's time to clock out, when it's time for the show to be over, do you hang out with your own family and friends? Why all of this theatrics? Why screenshotting and being messy to other people in group chats? Wasn't that just an issue that just happened on Real Housewives of Potomac, where one of the housewives was in a group chat with one of the bloggers and they were being messy, they were throwing shade and talking about other housewives, their other cast members, and so that particular blogger decided to screenshot it and send it away to, basically expose what was being said about them. So everybody is messy. Everyone's messy. And even Funky Dineva admitted himself that he was messy in going live at the same time as, the episodes of TGIF aired to prove a point, to prove that his audience was the reason that the ratings were through the roof, that people were tuning in. Now, I will say this. We obviously know that the views went down when Funky Dineva left, right? However, YouTube was not the only place that TGIF came on, you guys. There were other platforms, other streaming platforms that this show was airing on, you guys, that people had an opportunity to watch if they weren't watching it on YouTube. So we can't technically say that Funky Dineva was the reason for, all of these ratings. We can say that he has a significant portion of the reason that the ratings happen. However, we don't factually have the ratings of the show that was airing on all of these other streaming platforms to say for certain that, oh no, Funky Dineva, it was only your viewers and only your subscribers that the reason the show was success. Now, we're not going to, deny that obviously you have a large following. Obviously, a bulk of, the viewership was people who are subscribed to you. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is this was not the only place that the show came on. YouTube was not the only platform TGIF came on. There was at least, I think, 6 or 7 other places that you could see TGIF outside of YouTube. So nonetheless, we don't have those numbers. We don't have those receipts to say for certain, oh, the ratings were low or the viewership was low on all these other streaming platforms combined compared to YouTube to make that comparison, right? But again, if nothing else, what Funky Dineva is going to do, he's going to hype himself up no matter what when it's all said and done. And then I found some comments about what he was saying about YouTubers interesting, because he said that there were some people that he liked, and then he said that there were some people that needed to sit down, and that, basically he also said that he doesn't listen to YouTubers because he doesn't want to, ever pick up on any of their sayings or try to steal any of their approaches to doing things, and wants to, basically give his own opinion raw and uncut. And I respect that. I'm fine with that. However, some of the comments and some of the line of questioning, it was very obvious that you technically have tuned in
to some YouTubers, especially you, Carlos. You guys have tuned in to see what people are saying about you or saying about certain topics because you also have kind of regurgitated those same talking points. Like, for instance, how are you going to know, Funky Dineva, that people are accusing Carlos King of having you on the payroll and having you trying to revamp and save Love and Marriage Huntsville and resurrect it and give, damage control to the show unless you heard it from one of the YouTubers that pointed it out. Like it didn't just come out of nowhere, right? So nonetheless, you guys do listen to YouTubers, right? Just like Carlos King says he doesn't read comments, right? But somehow is able to repost and retweet any type of positive comments, right? So you are aware of what people are saying when it's positive, right? But nonetheless, you want to condemn anybody who calls you out, and we have to make the distinction of what is quote unquote an actual hater and somebody providing constructive criticism. There is a difference. The problem is some of you can't handle the truth about yourselves. Some of you want to pick and choose when you want to own your messiness. But when we call out the other messiness you do, all of a sudden you want to act like we're completely coming for your entire existence and trying to take you down and take you out. No. We're just calling a spade a spade. That's all it is. It's not personal. But some of you like to dish it out and you can never take it. And so we have to continue to call it out. That's all it is. But nonetheless, I just found all of this very interesting. I don't feel there was too much that was revealed that we didn't already know about the TGIF fallout and debacle. But nonetheless, the only new information really for me was that he apparently was trying to mentor and give Armon Wiggins advice on how to be successful. And obviously, it went on absolute deaf ears. It went on complete deaf ears, and it was like, you know what? I'm going to do me. I got here by doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to do whatever X, Y, and Z, and, get in with all these people at the show, at the network, and I'm going to ignore everything that Funky Dineva told me, right? And ultimately, a few months later, everybody's out of a job, right? Everybody's out of position. So nonetheless, there is that. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment I post new content on my channel. And with that being said, I'll talk to you guys again very soon.